This week I made pickled beans using a basic brine recipe. It was another high drama week. I went through a lot of the stages that I went through with the kombucha this week, as you'll see in the video diary. Some of the stuff that was happening is things that were problematic. Nothing that made it so it wasn't food safe. When I did the research, it was all still fine to eat, just stuff that is kind of sanitary issues or temperature issues. And then some of the issues that I had were things that you should just anticipate, and I was concerned about it just because it was my first time making pickles. I'm going to put the recipe and resources that I found helpful this week in the description below, so check that out if you want some extra info. The pickles though, they're amazing. When I can them up, they're really good. Ian tried them and he was actually surprised at how good they are. He doesn't normally like pickles, but doing the fermented style pickle, it means that they stayed nice and crisp. They didn't get soft like a cooked bean. They have the texture still of a raw bean. The first step that I did to do the beans is I stuffed my crock full of the beans. I also added in some dill heads, some garlic, some hot peppers, and some shallots in there. And I have to say, the onions are really delicious. I'm considering doing a recipe just of the pickled onions because they're so good. They're crisp and they're sweet and they're sour and salty. I was really surprised at how good those were. But yeah, so stay for the diary, check out all the steps. I have some images of the things that I was concerned about, as well as some of the normal stuff. One of the things that I don't show in the diary that I was a little unsure about is when I was stuffing the jars, when I was taking the beans out of the crock, they had a white film on them. And when I looked that up, that was actually a residue left over from the yeast reaction, and it's totally normal. That should be on your pickles. And another thing that was a little concerning for me, also super normal, is after I stuffed the first few jars, these ones you can see, they were nice and clean, but then when I got down to the bottom and I was getting the last little bits and kind of stirring everything up, this jar here, you can see the brine is a lot more cloudy. So this one here, it is cloudy because of the yeast deposits on the bottom of the crock, and as I picked up all those things and stirred up the brine, it dissolved into the brine, and that's the reason for the difference there. But still totally normal, still fine. All the different layers of the beans actually tasted the same, so nothing to worry about. Okay, we are at day 1 here on the fermented pickled beans. So far the brine is looking slightly cloudier than it originally was, and we have the tiniest bit of gas forming, but so far not too much action. I'm a little bit concerned about this one pickle that's decided to float up, despite my best efforts at packing it in there nice and tight, so we will have to keep out an eye. But so far no poison, no mold, so we're doing. Okay, so we're on day 2 here. The water is still, or brine I should say, it's still looking a little cloudy, which is good. It's hard to tell at this point if it's cloudier than it was yesterday. And I am starting to see some gas bubbles building up. You can kind of see it right in here and in here. So that's good. That means that we're getting some action going on in there. So I don't want to open it up at this point, just in case I am going to be introducing any sort of bad bacteria by sticking something in there. But yeah, I'm being hopeful. There's a couple things that I'm a little bit worried about down at the bottom. It's really hard to see, which is the reason why I'm not getting too overly stressed about it until I try it. But there is some stuff that is a little bit dark in there, and so I'm hoping that's just the purple beans. When they get cooked, they lose their color, and so I'm hoping that what's going on is the fermentation process is starting to change what they look like, and that we don't actually have rotting beans down in the bottom destroying my massive crock. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'm gonna open it up and check it tomorrow, see if it's acidic, and see how it's doing. So that'll be the one. Okay, so we got day 3 on the pickles here. There's definitely some carbonation going on in there, and the liquid's getting nice and cloudy. I've opened it up. It smells pretty good. I am a little bit concerned because if you look, you can kind of see a little bit of a spot right there. And there's also a spot where the pickles have come up to the top. And there's a little bit of a spot on that as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to not freak out too much about it. I'm going to just skim those spots off, and then I'm gonna try pickle, make sure everything's looking acidic here, and just let it keep doing its thing, but crossing my fingers, not making poison. But yeah, only day 3, so it still needs a full week. So hopefully we can salvage this. Okay, so we got day 5 on my pickles here. I did some research, and the stuff that was on the top of the brine sounds like it wasn't actually mold, but something called Kahm's yeast, which is okay to get on your ferments. It doesn't mean that they're poison, but it does mean that they can give a bad taste to the ferments. So last night I skimmed it off the top, and nothing has grown back now. It's been about 24 hours since I skimmed it. So that's good. And the pickles, they did taste good when I tried them last night. Not quite ready yet. They still need to get a little bit more sour, and the flavor needs to get a little bit more throughout. But they did have that sourness. I tested them with the pH strips, and it looked like they were at about a 4 for pH. And my research said anything lower than 4.6 was safe, so that's good. So at this point, I think I'm probably going to give it another 2 days to be like the full week. And I'm going to check again tomorrow night, make sure nothing is growing on the top again. But I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to pull anything else out for tasting until it's had that full week. And then at that point, I'm going to open it up and take a taste test, and if they're tasting good, I'm going to get them into some smaller jars and into the fridge. Okay, today's the day for these pickles. I tasted them yesterday, and they're nice and sour and delicious and spicy. So the scum did grow back on the top, so I'm going to be sure to pick out as much of that as possible, because I'm going to actually transfer these into another container. It looks like, since I tasted it yesterday, bean floated up to the top, and I'll probably put that one aside because it looks like it has some of the scum growing on it too. But I don't know, I think they look pretty good. They are definitely tasty. So I'm going to put these into some new jars, and then I'm going to stick them in the fridge to eat. So pretty exciting. Got some pickled beans. You know, obviously not 100% success because I did get that layer on the top there, but pretty good. Thanks so much for joining me for another Fermentation Friday. Next week we'll have a second ferment on kombucha. I actually just drew off my finished kombucha earlier today, so I have that all ready to get put into the second containers to try to get the carbonation and put some flavoring in. So make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see that and to see more Fermentation Friday videos, because I'll be here every week. Have a good week.